It's To All the Men I've Tolerated Before with the one and only Natalie Katona.
And Dina Alkatib.
You know the drill on this podcast. We're talking everything about impactful relationships we've had with men, or literally how they just affect the culture around us. You're going to recognize our two guests today. It's Stephanie, my best friend from childhood, from our episode about mothering during a pandemic, and Amber, another one of my best friends, who is my amazingly talented friend from our episode about running a household and a small business. I'm finally living a dream today by getting the two of them together to talk about the pressures of mom guilt and this mommy culture they live through, because usually I have to listen to them talk about this separately.
I was going to say, have you not had enough of all of our calls, Natalie, hearing about this?
Well, it's so fun because Amber works at night, and like you and I are on the phone during the day when we're working from home, and then Amber works at night. So it's like I get off the phone with you and I get off the phone with Amber.
We love a supportive friend. So
yeah, it's nice to have a friend who doesn't have kids, so I can be like, this is why it sucks. And she's like, yep, and that's why I don't have them.
Well,
yes, every time we end a call, Natalie goes, I'm going to add this to the category of reasons why I'm still pretty solid in my decision that I do not want to have my own children. Yep. Love that for you, though. Hope it gets better.
And Amber and Dina, last weekend, Stephanie and I went to Chelsea Handler to relive one of our high school dreams because she was our favorite comedian growing up. And
now we can afford the tickets.
And we could afford the tickets because we're grown-ups now. And she affirmed all of my life choices. And Stephanie's like, you're just living your fucking best Chelsea Handler life. And I didn't listen. All right. So, mommy guilt. That's what we're going to be talking about today, because I think with both of you, we kind of hinted on the imbalance of when it comes to motherhood and fatherhood and household responsibilities and working responsibilities. But there's this like whole subculture of like mommies that I only get an outsider look of because I am childless. Because of the two of you.
Before we get started, I wanted to tell Amber, I think I texted this to Natalie when I listened to your episode, but I was like, tell Amber to let go of all of her guilt. She's doing such a good job. So before we get started, you're killing it. You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Bitch, you're doing a good job.
Bitch, you're doing a good job. Yesterday she sent me a picture of just like hosting. Oh shit. You don't want your kids' names.
You can just bleep it out.
And we'll bleep it out. But she sent me a picture of her kid like hosting a tea party on Zoom.
Aww.
Talking shit about all of us because Amber would walk in and she'd get real quiet.
Yeah, both the kids would. It was their first like Zoom meeting. So this other little girl lives in California, and her mom is also a historical costumer person. And so they're the same age, and they both like tea. So we set them up this cute little thing because they're pen pals. And at first it was really awkward, and then it got to where the mommies left the room, and then they were like super, super chatty. And then whenever we would come back in, they would zoop.
Whoop.
They're airing their grievances, Amber.
They must have been.
And they're saving you money on therapy, so let it go.
So I think my first opening question needs to be, if you two had to come up with your own unique definition of what it means to be living in mommy culture, like what is your definition of the mommy culture?
Do you want to start, Stephanie?
No, I was going to ask you if you wanted to start.
I guess mine is short and sweet. I can start. And it's basically there's no way to win.
I was going to say, no matter what you're doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And like you said, I truly believe that there's no wrong way, but in mommy culture, like whatever you're doing is the wrong way.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what do you like attribute to that? Is it mommy blogs? Is it other mommies? Is it the comparison imposter syndrome thing? Like what attributes to this like feeling like I'm doing the best I can, but it's still the wrong thing that I should be doing?
I don't know. Like on I think that for me, I see it as more of just like, it's the ripples of the misogynistic culture that we are in, because like there's nothing else that I can imagine that would make it so negative, because people in general, like, you know, your friends and whatnot, you want to elevate the people that are around you and in the same situation, but somehow we are always pitted against each other as women. And it's not because of women, it's because of the culture that has been standing so far. And so I think that it's kind of just the ripple effect of that, and that like there's no way to win, so you have to keep trying harder. Does that?
Yes.
You know?
And then enter mom guilt. But
Yeah.
I kind of think, like, in a very functional sense, where does that come from? That's in your, and I don't know for you where it started, but for me, it starts in your due date group. When you get pregnant for the first time. It could start earlier if you're in one of those trying to conceive groups.
Okay.
But it starts in your due date group. And then it's, well, I would never. Or you should never. And then it just kind of snowballs from there. And then it's looking at, and I think some of it's self-imposed. So you're looking at social media, which is notoriously not real or true. Nobody's putting their dumpster fires on social media. So you're looking at social media and you're saying, wow, they can clean their house and they can do all this and get all this stuff done and without a mental breakdown or without this or that or the other thing. And so you're comparing your dumpster fire situation that you're in that moment to someone's picture perfect, fake Instagram moment. And then, you know, the feelings of guilt and the feelings of inadequacy. And then, Natalie, you mentioned the mommy blogs. For some reason, people think that the way they do things is the only way to do it or the only right way. And then they write these mommy blogs as if they're experts. But sorry, Susan, you have one kid.
Yeah.
Like, it's been alive for 3 months. You don't know what you don't know. And for you to say that you have to or this is the right way or whatever is just so toxic.
And you know, Amber, you said something that I was thinking, actually, and this culture, this misogynistic culture has made it so that women feel like they have to be in competition with one another, and there's been so much woman-on-woman bashing that it's just so sad to see everybody, you know, hating instead of trying to, you know, be compassionate and show empathy with one another. And I just wonder if that's where this all really stems from, is this need for, like, competition with one another instead of actually being supportive.
It also sounds like capitalism.
Like where you see these other things and you're like, I gotta get better than that.
Right. I only bought a $700 stroller. I didn't know I needed this $1,400 stroller. Or look at her. My life would be great if I had this $3,000 bassinet or whatever. And you're like, your baby just needs a surface to sleep on.
Yep, a box.
It could be a box.
It used to be boxes. You used to put your kid in a box in a window. That's what they did in Europe. So I've seen
I'm gonna try that tonight.
So I've seen on Call the Midwife. Like, watch me just give, like, BBC facts. Like, well, they used to just put babies in boxes.
Right, Natalie, that's toxic. We're just trying to do the best we can. If a box is all you have, put the baby in the box. But the Fisher-Price bassinet will do just fine. You don't have to buy the organic
non-BPA.
You know. Yes.
Well, it also, like, and, like, this is going to come off as sounding shitty, but, like, on the capitalistic side, it almost is like your kid is your product, and mothering is how you sell that product. Like, look how well I'm doing.
Well, and if we're all lying to each other on social media, you don't want to see my, like, 4th generation 1982 hand-me-down crib. You want the picture-perfect, you know, handmade crib with the perfect blush sheets and the hand-painted mural behind the baby's thing. And again, just put the baby on a surface and it'll be fine.
Right.
Put that baby on the floor. Like, I can just hear my grandma saying that in my ear. Like, what are you doing with that baby? Put that baby on the floor. It wants to stretch out. She's going to haunt
Yes.
me later tonight.
No, and I agree with that. I do think, talking about grandmas and that, some of the mommy kind of shame and guilt comes from the older or more veteran moms in your life who will say things like, my kid would never, or when my kids were little, they never, or that's not how you do it. Not realizing that, like, I don't know, maybe things have changed in the last 50 years.
Well,
Karen.
Yeah.
Or your kids did because I was there and I saw it happen.
Well, Stephanie and I had this really interesting conversation where a friend of mine had their first child almost 10 to 15 years after their core support group had their kids, and how like lonely that must have been to be the person raising an infant when your support system is raising teenagers, and that it's almost easier for the people who are raising teenagers to have this romanticized look at your infant and be like, I would be changing that baby's outfit 3 times a day for Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody looks back on the time with rose-colored glasses, and I truly believe that that's okay. You want to remember the best times. You want to remember when your kids were little. But it's just not realistic to then say to a newer mom, oh, that's not what I would do, or when my kids were little, or I would never, or you should never, when in truth you hadn't slept in 5 days, your kid was screaming all night, you were trying to get by all the same, but you've forgotten that, you've buried that way deep down, and now all you're thinking of is the one perfect day you had, and you're like, I would never. Well, you did.
Right.
And some of us saw you do it.
Yeah.
So.
It sounds like it's coming from, does it only come from other moms, or is it people out, like, who don't even have kids, too?
Oh, no.
No, do you think dads are saying anything? Do you think
I'm just curious.
Dad culture?
I think that there is the dad culture of, oh, my wife doesn't blankety blank blank blank.
Oh, yeah, as a status almost.
Yeah, and so, like, so I'm a good cook. I can cook well. All right. So I know that with my husband and talking to other, like, of his friends, when they talk about their home life, it rarely goes into, like, weird territory, as in, like, talking about sex. But usually it's about just general, like, oh, my wife does this. Oh, sorry, I said his name. Oops. My husband will say something along the lines of, oh, my wife made a really good meal. And then the other husband is now like, oh, no, my wife doesn't make that for me. And so, like, there does become, I think, on the side of guys, how they're hearing how this wife does this wife does this, and they're still able to go to work or still able to do whatever. And my wife what I see is her sitting down on the couch exhausted. And so I think that there does start to be this, like, well, why doesn't from the guy's point of view, and then that can create resentment in your own relationship, and you have no idea where his ideas are coming from because he's talking to somebody else and not conveying it to you, because as we well know, communication in relationships is not usually that great somehow.
Says who?
Because men are just so good at it.
Right.
Shocked.
They're just so good.
But what I was going to say wasn't even about men. It was just about single people. Like, and I say single people as those that don't have kids.
Right.
And so I know that I am guilty of it. Before I had kids, I was definitely one of those single people that were like, oh, my kid would never. I will not let that happen. That would never be me. Oh, that kid is so badly behaved, blah, 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 blah. And you quickly get slapped in the face. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
So I know that it comes from more than just the moms. It comes from everywhere, because everyone has a mom that they are associated with, be it their biological parent or a grandmother or in some way a friend. And there are lots of expectations, and a lot of them are unattainable. So,
yeah,
frustrating.
You guys are getting hit by all sides.
Mm-hmm.
That sucks.
Yeah.
And, going back to the dads or the partners in your life, I talk a lot to Natalie because she is my free therapist.
And your life partner.
And my life, right? She will be my next spouse should something happen to the one I have. Her and I will be living.
That's incriminating. Now,
it was like a mysterious disappearance.
Okay, so should the marriage dissolve, either to death do us part, I guess. I don't know. For legal reasons, this is all a joke.
In Minecraft.
Yeah. So, no, Natalie and I are going to live our days together at some point. But the thing I talk to Natalie a lot about is just the invisible, labor of women and the invisible labor of moms and how to run a household and keep all the plates spinning. So, Amber talked about, she likes to cook and she's a good cook and sometimes she makes amazing meals for her family. And there's probably a mom in your husband's, friend's life or coworkers' lives that doesn't cook. And hi, it's me. Natalie heard me on the drive-thru ordering my kids' dinner right before this. But there's probably 1,000 amazing things that she does that you don't do. Right. So maybe you probably do make handmade costumes, sorry. But maybe she's volunteering at her kids' schools and maybe she's running a charity or maybe she's doing all of these other things, but because her labor is not valued in the way that we value labor in a capitalistic society, it doesn't count as a thing that she's doing. Right. So they don't see the 10, 15 other plates she has spinning. They're only looking at, well, she didn't make dinner and Amber makes dinner for her husband.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We talk a lot about and I've started to use the invisible emotional labor of women against my work environment. I have
you love to see it.
I currently have a boss who takes everything personally. So we're, as a department, pretty unhappy. And he, instead of having proactive solutions for it, just goes, well, why don't you all just throw a carry-in if you're so unhappy? And I have time and time again explained to him, if there is a certain culture that you want in our work environment, you have to lead that. It cannot be on me to plan a party for you to feel better, like we're all happy, because it's all just a mirage. And just because you think women are good at party planning doesn't mean it's making anyone happy. So,
yeah. Well, I think that like you're saying, it affects everyone, not just moms. And the more dependence that you have on you, the worse it gets. So whether you have kids or you have animals, there's a lot of, of that invisible labor that you've got to do. And it's so frustrating when it's just not seen by the people that you're close to, which can be workmates or spouses. But yeah, it's frustrating.
Pizza has stopped being a reward when we were in the 3rd grade and got the book it points from Pizza Hut, okay?
That's what I was thinking.
A reward. It is just food, and I can buy my own.
And I'll buy my own pizza. And I'm buying myself pizza tonight, I've decided.
Yes. Stuffed crust, as we know. Stuffed crust solves anything.
Oh, always. It's the only thing I have
better when I don't have to be forced to eat it in front of my coworkers. So just a PSA to all bosses and employers out there. Pizza is not the solution.
Right. We don't want to have forced family fun with you because we're having forced family fun with our own families. God,
you know what they should do? They should take pizza. They should just give you a pizza on the way out.
Yes. Yeah. Take the pizza home.
Here, have a pizza. Go home.
Here's livable wages and buy your own pizza.
Yeah. Right.
That would also be great.
Here are benefits that are absolutely use those benefits. Use those benefits to buy your own pizza.
Right. Oh, hey, I used my power as a man in this country to get us all free health care because my vote counts.
Yeah, let's do something real.
Right. What are some of your, triggers to like, oh, I'm going to have a guilty mom day.
Whew.
Yeah.
We're heading into like one of the big triggers, which is the holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I know Natalie has her own holiday trauma.
I have holiday
as
trauma.
many of us probably former children do. But it's hard. It's, did I do enough? Am I doing enough? Are my kids happy? Am I making Christmas magical? Is everything going to be fantastic for everyone? Did my child just scream no in the background?
He did. You're asking if I'm making the holidays magical, and I can just hear him going, no, no, you're not.
Okay, so like enter the guilt. Now I have to now I'm going to have to think about what that means.
Right.
But there's a great meme that I see going around Facebook all the time that says, now that it's not like I'm bad at paraphrasing, but now that I'm a mom, I know that all of my magical Christmas holiday memories were made by my mom. Mm-hmm. So your mom made that happen. And I don't know, I'm not even going to say that. I was going to say not to negate the input of men, but yeah, they didn't do much.
Right.
In my experience.
Well, and it's the same thing with like vacations.
Right.
I was talking to my mom about when my family went to Maine. We went to go visit my husband's grandmother. So it was the first time that my youngest was meeting her great grandma, because she can't travel or anything. So anyway, after the fact, I was talking to my mom about all of the crappy things that went on, and leading up to it, I was so stressed out. And it's that same thing. And I was asking Mom, well, how, like, I know we only went on a couple trips, because I think we went on 3 total trips growing up until I graduated. And I was like, how did you make it work? Like, it seemed like everything went so seamless. And she goes, I didn't sleep for weeks, and I didn't enjoy the entire trip. I was just there.
Not me literally talking to my therapist about this today.
I'm sorry.
Vacations aren't vacations for Mom. It's parenting in another zip code with 10 times the work. Mm-hmm. And then you come back and you have not only spent, because you always clean your house before you go on vacation, so you come back to a clean house. So you spent the weeks leading up to, like, obsessively cleaning your house, putting everything together, whatever. And then you come back and you have, a stack of mail and piles and piles of laundry to do. Welcome home.
And everything is just continuing as it was before. And it's the same with holidays or any of that kind of thing, where it's just like, it's just extra on top of the already extra that is just insane.
What you need is a great friend like Natalie who lets you come to her house for the weekend and ignore your family. No, I didn't ignore them. They did a good job of taking care of themselves. But ignore your family for the weekend while you do adult things.
Yeah.
And don't talk about, well, we probably did talk about my kids, but try not to.
But back on what you were saying about triggers, to actually answer, like, for me to answer the question, because I don't think I did. Mine is that, like, in the morning, if I wake up and things have not, basically, if things have not started how I see fit, which in my mind is I wake up without extra prompting. Like a kid isn't screaming at me. And the dishwasher is emptied. That's the perfect morning, right? Mm-hmm. But if it's not, which is most days, that's when the negative ball starts rolling. So I start my day being like, this didn't happen, blah, blah, blah. And then I've got my kids screaming at me because I'm already in a bad mood. And then the mom guilt starts happening of like, oh, well, I don't get to see them every hour of every day because now they go to daycare and preschool for some of the days of the week. And so I'm like, I should be feeling nicer about my time with them, but I am just resentful and I don't want them to be here right now. And so like it becomes this, I'm not in a good mood, and then I'm guilty for not being in a good mood. And it just gets bigger throughout the day. And that's
also a quick tidbit, because I do pay $150 an hour. My therapist said you should stop saying should.
Oh.
Did she tell you to replace it with anything?
Ma'am, I have ADHD and now I can't remember. That's the part I got, okay? Stop with the should statements to yourself, like I should be doing more, I should be, whatever.
Do you want to talk about your fun levels when it comes to spending time with all of the things that you orchestrate for your family? How much fun did you have at the zoo?
Right. So I've come to terms with, and I think that's one of the big things in being an adult and parenting, is that your expectation level has to change. So no longer are you going to have a magical time at the zoo. Now you're just like at the zoo facilitating a magical time for all the tiny people. So I went on vacation and I think my kids had a great time. I think they really loved it. I think like hopefully we put some like solid core memories in there of like forced family fun. I did not. Liam, I'm sure nobody asked you. Not another man. Not even let me have a moment. This is pretty on brand for him, though.
It is. It honestly is. The fact that he's been having long pauses between his opinions.
Yeah. So, I think my kids had a really great time, but for me, it was just a lot of work. But there are like snippets of joy in there, right? So there's snippets of joy when the look on your kids' faces, or seeing your kids experience something for the first time, or like that part. There's joy in there. And so like I think especially like for me, and I don't speak for all moms, but it could be true for a lot of people, is that like that's what gets me through, right? So you've done all this work, and then your kids' eyes light up when they see a dolphin or whatever, and you're like, that's it, I did it. Guilt? What guilt?
Right.
We're doing it, we're winning.
And you forget that maybe 75% of the time you've been like, bah.
Yes.
But listening to that, like knowing who I am as a person in my core, I think eventually I would start resenting the fact that instead of having my own joy that I got to see a dolphin, because I too love dolphins,
Hey, Liam, I need you to
my
quiet,
joy
okay?
has to hinge on whether or not this little gremlin is smiling at the dolphin. And like, I don't know. And again, that's probably why I'm childless, because I can't get over not wanting to give up my solo joy.
So I think that brings us into like another point that's interesting to think about, is that nobody tells you all of this, right? So
Right.
Your mom didn't tell you vacation is literal hell for
Right.
weeks before and weeks after, and also during.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like as a society, maybe now we're getting better about those things. We're having these conversations, but at least going into parenting for me, it's the picture perfect. You're going to have this baby and you're going to be in love and everything's going to be fine. Nobody explains to you that your body is literally torn apart and that you'll never sleep again. I mean, people joke like, oh, get your sleep now, ha ha ha, like it's real cute. But like, it is not cute. Your body gets hit by a Mack truck and then you are given a literal, like, helpless infant that you are responsible for keeping alive. And nobody tells you that your husband's going to sleep through all that, or he's going to get dinner while you're pushing out a baby or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's the hard part too, is that the expectation isn't set. So a lot of it is a complete shock. I didn't know it was going to be this hard. I didn't know it was going to be this difficult. I didn't know. And that's why I said you have to set the expectation for yourself. It's not a good time for you. You already know.
Right.
So that's where you need a really great friend or a really great outlet, self-care, whatever you call it, where you can find those moments of joy. And I swear to God, if anyone in your life ever tells you that showering is self-care, you crack them like a glow stick, because it is not. Showering is like a human necessity. Showering does not count as me time. Showering is just time where you have to literally wash your ass.
Mm-hmm.
On like a semi-basic occasion.
Yeah.
But taking out the trash alone, checking the mail, taking a shower, eating a meal, that is not self-care. That is just what humans need to do to get through their day. And do not tell any moms that is self-care, or don't talk to me ever again.
Yeah, and it's a hard thing to break too. And that's the mom guilt, is because you think, okay, well, I've got to do XYZ and ABC, and there's only time, and I've told everyone there's time for 3 things in a day. that I know that I will get those things done. And showering is one of them, at least for me. And so there was a long time where I was like, well, because like I don't have enough time because my kids need this from me or whatever, I just wouldn't. And then you realize, okay, ew, that's why I smell bad. I've not taken a shower in a week and a half. You know, it's disgusting. But you're absolutely right. Like, elements of self-care should not be taking a shower by
Basic human
any
needs.
stretch of the
Yeah,
imagination.
that's like the minimum, to exist.
But I personally felt like I had to ask for that time, like from my husband, when I would be like, you know, I really think that I would feel better if I could just take a shower. And I remember him looking at me thinking, like, why do you need to ask that? You know, like, because I would be like, can I go take a shower? Like, can you watch the kids while I go take a shower? And he would be like, yes, go. Why are you asking me? And I'm like,
well, and I do wonder, like, because when my kids were little, like babies especially, you're just like, everything's so, like, you just have your anxiety so high. And this brings me to one point, like, I need to put a PSA. If you're struggling with, like, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, do not pretend that it's going well for anyone. Do not lie to your doctor. Do not lie to your partner. Do not lie to anyone who reaches out to help you. Take the help. Tell the people. Get what you need to get, because it will not just get better on its own, and it's deep and dark and hard, and there is help. But so when you first have the baby, and your anxiety is so high, like, you're just so worried about keeping this thing happy and healthy and alive, then you feel like, if I take a moment, that, you know what I mean? Like, if I get in the shower, what you can just run through all of the scenarios of what's going to happen, and you're just like, well, I'll live without the shower, you know.
right.
When in
Or
reality,
you can fit it in
man,
some
put that
other
baby
time.
down somewhere safe. If the baby is in a place safe, it will be okay if it cries for 10 minutes while you wash your literal ass.
Right.
It will be okay. And I think
Yeah.
that's what people need to tell people too, is like, it will be okay if your kid cries. They will be okay for 5 minutes. You can do the thing that you need to do so that you can continue to be alive, you know.
Right. And be in a good state of mind, because
Right.
it's never good to be resentful toward your family. I know that I struggle with resentment in a lot of different areas. But like, especially with parenting, because there's a part of me that is very, and I'll say selfish, because it is. I want my time. I want to be able to do my stuff. Motherhood does not define me. So for me to feel like I'm stuck in this, like, you have to do this because you're a mom, it makes me resentful. And like and then I feel guilty because I'm resentful, and then it does a whole snowball thing again. And I don't know where I was going with this, but
Do you think that men feel guilty or like to take time for themselves? Yeah, so like that, it's the difference.
I was
right?
shaking my head for the listeners; they can't see me.
Right,
Right.
so it's
Podcast
that
is an
whole thing
audio
where
format.
you have to ask for the time, or you have to feel guilty about taking the time, or you're not even doing what it is you need to do because you feel so guilty or whatever. But like, you know, your husband can go watch a football game, or your partner can go out to eat with their friends or do whatever without a second thought, but you have to like literally orchestrate weeks of planning in advance to just take a shower or go read a book or do whatever it is you need to do, go have lunch with a friend, whatever, have an hour for this podcast, whatever it is. And men wouldn't, or dads or whoever, wouldn't give a second thought to their mini football league. What do they call those things? Fantasy football league.
Fantasy
football. Their little
It's
league.
it's like you're expected to be completely selfless.
Yeah.
But they're not.
And I think that does stem from hundreds of years of misogyny, and for some women, internalized misogyny. And
well, and the change too, I don't mean to talk over her, but the change too from parenting in a village with a group of people in a community that the main goal is just to keep these kids alive and safe, Now we're in these micro, just family units, and I don't have any support here. So, like, when we moved from Athens, which is where I grew up, Athens, Ohio, not Athens, Greece. I'm not that cool. But anyway, once we moved, I knew that I would not have that support system. And so there's this, like, weirdness of just, like, trying to be and trying to survive without that. And we have to be the super moms because we don't have anyone else to lean on and can't afford anyone else to lean on too. Well, and all the guys can think of is, well, the bottom line, I'm making money and that's my duty. I've done it.
Right. And then enter like toxic mom groups, but even if you do have some really good mom friends, they have a million kids themselves, and they have the weight of the world on them themselves. So if you have a mom friend, you can definitely, I'm sure you would help them out, they would help you out, but they can't do what you need a village to do because they're also being crushed under the weight of it.
Yeah.
So it's a no-win situation.
Yeah. Now, I know this is an aside. I know that you've got to leave soon, Stephanie,
yes.
But your experience with mom groups, have they been positive in any way? Because mine have been overwhelmingly negative.
So I haven't done the mom group thing in a while, except for I am part of a mom's club. Watch
Sounds
out.
Fancy.
It's exclusive.
Exclusive.
It's $25 a year, super exclusive and unaffordable. And I found that group, because it's local people meeting in person, is less toxic than fake internet people telling you that your baby can only eat organic carrots or whatever.
Yeah.
Or you're a bad mom and you should rot in hell. I found that experience has been okay, and especially because it's a non-for-profit, it's very service-oriented, and one of my best friends, that's not Natalie, but one of my other best friends from high school is the president, so I've stayed connected through there. But they do the things where they organize the field trip for your little kids so you can go to the apple orchard or whatever with this group of moms. So it is nice where it's like, hi, I'm a new mom. I've moved to a new town and I have no friends.
Right.
Or like, hi, I'm a new mom and I'm just being buried under the weight of it all. You can go out, take your kids to play with another kid or whatever in, a relatively safe environment or whatever. But so I found that the in-person mom groups are far less toxic than the online mom groups. So if you can find one, that's not always the case. And I don't really stay, I don't go to their, monthly meetings or whatever. I'm in, at this age now that my kids are in school, I'm in it for the, 2 field trips that we go on a year, one over the summer, and then one we'll go ice skating with them or something. And you get the group rate or whatever, and your kids get to have fun with other kids. And
okay.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds a lot better than my experience. So
really?
I was just,
okay. And then, no. So that's the only one. But again, I'm not super engaged in it. So the day-to-day politics of it all, I just pay my dues and show up to a field trip, and then that's it.
Okay. See, that sounds blissful.
Yeah. I'm sure, if we asked my friend who's the president or anybody who actually has to, organize the field trips and organize the moms and all of that, they would probably have another feeling. But I'm just living my bliss in that mom club.
Well, that's awesome. So, my experience has been that they're mostly dysfunctional, and it's because it's like catty drama.
Yes.
And it's a lot of the my kid would never or I would never.
Mm-hmm.
I joined a local one here soon after we moved, and I became friends with only one person in the group. And sadly, she ended up having to move abruptly. But the other women in the group were just there was this woman who was much younger than I, but she was trying for her second baby, and her little boy was the same age as my little girl, and she would not stop talking about circumcision.
Nobody cares what you do with your baby's dick, I promise.
Well, right, and I had a girl, so it wasn't even something that was part of my thinking.
Right.
And then after that, like, it became like, I just can't believe that people would even consider circumcision. And so it very quickly became this, like, well, I would never, you should never, you're trash if you do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm thinking, like, well, I'm like, I do like to cook, but I'm a fast food junkie. My kids eat French fries.
Yeah.
And then I'm afraid to express any of that because I don't want to be judged.
Right.
It sounds very polarizing.
Yes.
Yeah, and the online only groups are, whoa. They are
and because you never have to
something
look that person in the face and say that to them.
Yeah.
Because try me, I'll chop you right in the throat.
Right.
Just kidding. I'll probably just get in my car and cry and call Natalie. But yeah, the online groups it's a whole other beast, and it's really, and I think it all really goes back to what you said in the very beginning about, like, why do we have this competition? Why are we even at each other's throats? Like, you need to just support other moms. So if you would never give your kids French fries and you see someone giving their kids French fries, just think in your mind, like, oh, good, her kids are eating today.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, good, she's giving her kids a treat, or, you know, she must be really busy today, and she is, but she's still taking care of her kids. Go her. Don't worry about it. Stay in your lane.
Yep.
Stay in your lane, and as long as we're not, like, physically abused, well, however way you can abuse people, but as long as their children are not being abused or neglected, just stay in your lane. A circumcision is not neglect. French fries are not neglect.
Mm-hmm.
Non-organic carrots are not neglect. Worry about yourself.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Because I don't want you to be late picking up Lily, because I know that the person who could usually drive her home is on vacation with their family or whatever. Just quickly, tell us one way we could have a solution to mommy culture and mom guilt to make it better. And that can count as your manifestation and your hope for what you want to have happen.
Well, so I actually wrote mine out already, so I'll just do that really quick. I know, because last time I was like, I was not aware there was an assignment. So I just hope that all moms give themselves a break, and that the dads and partners in their lives step up to the plate and realize all of the invisible labor that they're completing every day to keep their kids alive and their household running, and then that the dads or partners take on some of that labor, give the moms a break.
That's right.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear. Are you picking her up from basketball?
I am.
See, have fun.
All right. Do you care if I jump off now?
No, just jump off, yeah.
And
then
it's so nice to meet you finally.
Also, yeah, you know, you got to meet Amber.
I did. I'm like, what a highlight.
That was awkward. I should have planned that better. I was like, Stephanie, go get your kid.
Oh, it's okay.
All right, Amber. What?
I'm solo now.
I know, now you're solo. Now it's just you with two single ladies who don't have kids. And now
you can replace kid with cat if you want. Maybe it'll help in some way.
Not too far different, really.
And now you have to be the sole, like, representative of all moms everywhere.
Dang, the pressure.
That is a big amount of pressure there.
Do you think that, because we've talked a lot about society, and as we know, we're living in a misogynistic, capitalistic hellscape.
Yes.
Just waiting for it to end.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think are, like, small gains? Because that's what I see myself doing in my toxic environment. I'm like, what is one small step I could do today to just really fuck the patriarchy and this workspace? So, like, what are small everyday things that women could do to just, like, fuck over this mommy culture?
Oh, goodness. You should have prepped me with that one.
Oh, God. Well, I just came up with it. So
okay.
Damn.
All right. So you're not at fault. I don't know, because the ways that I've tried have not worked. So I guess I could go into the ways that I have tried to do an FU and then failed in some way.
Do it.
Most of them are directed at my husband, but so, like, one of the things that I was trying to do there for a while was to solidify myself as a working mom. So I work 3 days a week. My kids are at daycare or a preschool for 3 full days a week. And so those are my work days. And I thought, okay, during this work time, I am absolutely not going to do household stuff. I will cook dinner or orchestrate dinner, but I will not work on house stuff. And I went 2 months where I did not. And guess what? They never got done. None of the stuff that needed to get done did, even if I asked about it. And we also have like the pandemic depression too. So I think that that's part of some of why it didn't work out as well, because in the past it's worked better. But yeah, it totally backfired, because then I was stressed because the dishwasher was not emptied or filled at the end of the day and all of that. So, I've now started in the mornings of my work day, or every day actually, just making sure that I have a ritual that I stick to, because at least I can make the immediate room that you walk into when you come in my house clean if I just stick with it every morning. But it doesn't help the patriarchal situation in any way, because it's still getting done.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, like, in living with a partner who is a cis male, like, there's a lot of extra communication that I have to do with him in order to make sure that he knows what my needs and expectations are, instead of him just seeing that I'm struggling and asking what he can do. That never seems to happen. So, we just had a conversation recently about that same type of thing. Just about, hurry up and look and see, look around. Like, I need your help. If I'm having an anxiety episode, like, I need you to step up to the plate, not just be like, oh, sorry. And
Stephanie and I were having a conversation today before the recording about gratitude.
Okay.
And if she wants me to cut this out, I will. Or Dina will, because she does our text stuff. But basically, what was happening was she was describing to her therapist her therapist asked her, does your partner ever thank you for everything that you do?
Okay.
And she went, fucking no, or else why would I be here? And her therapist went, well, have you ever taught your partner how to thank you? And she's like, well, just like me, they are an adult in their 30s who has gone through all of life.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, well, have you modeled it for him? And she goes, I model gratitude for my children. I am so overtly nice to the Starbucks barista because I dared to order coffee that day that it's almost offensive. So I'm modeling every day for my 2 small children. I think the other one could just like figure it the fuck out. That you should be grateful for things that are happening to you. But it just doesn't happen unless you, like you said, you very blatantly are like, look me in the eye.
Yeah, and repeat to me what you heard.
Right. Yes. Like you're talking to one of my former 4th graders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you have to baby them.
Yeah.
You have to treat them like children.
Yeah, I know that this has happened not just in cis hetero, like, relationships. Mm-hmm. Whoever is the main caretaker, they are the ones that are doing all of that invisible emotional labor, right? And so when it comes to the other person, usually the one that's more of the breadwinner, they're not with the kids all the time, or they're not doing the household stuff. There's just this weird disconnect of like, I'm making the money, or most of the money. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I have done my duties. And unless you ask of me, I'm going to be doing my own thing. And it's so frustrating because it's like, I can't ever escape being, in this role. And they get to escape for 8 hours a day because they get out of the house. And they also get to escape when they come home because they require 5 fucking hours of decompression time. So
the luxury.
Yeah. Like my decompression is basically taking a shower. And like, that's what sucks. I literally have to put it in my schedule. Mm-hmm. The days that I want to make sure that I get a shower. And I have to think about how much time it'll take and how much time that will affect, how that little blip will affect my whole schedule.
Damn.
So yeah, my FUs to the patriarchy thus far have not really worked out that well.
Well, maybe some listeners will have some.
Hopefully, yes. Please, listeners, send us your suggestions, because I really would like to send some FUs.
I have another question about society.
Okay.
Do you think that as women modernize themselves, meaning we've entered the workforce, we become more independent from men, all of these things that weren't naturally opened up to us are now opened up to us a little bit. Let's not pretend we fixed it.
Okay.
Do you think that that's caused more resentment and issues with mommy culture?
Yes, because, I definitely do. So I think that because the expectations of women were to deal with all of the home stuff, to run the house, it is a full-time job. If you want to keep your house clean, if you want to feed people, if you want to also make sure that you don't go over budget, that's a full-time job. Let alone having the kids alive. Just doing the household work is a full-time job. And so when you add a full-time job onto that, it makes the expectation all the higher. And you have to accept that there are things that you can't do. Yeah. And I know that when we talked about this before when I was on the podcast, just how at some point, if you work or if you transition from not working, staying home with your kids and then to working, I'm only part-time, but we had to have the conversation of like, hey, look, I'm working part-time right now and I am able to bring in money, but that means that I can't do all of the things that I was previously doing. And then what happens is now that there's so many different ways of being a mom, all of these moms start looking at this method of this person is the wrong way.
Yeah.
And then you're told, I was told once, I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast before, I was told once by another mom when I was saying like, it stresses me out to not have the house clean to a certain degree. And she goes, oh, well, we prioritize quality time with our children, so we don't focus so much on cleaning the house. And I was thinking, like, what the F? I was telling you about, like, this, like, thing that literally stresses me out. It's just me, and I'm trying to figure out a way to make this happen so I'm not stressed out. And then you just throw it in my face, saying that because I'm stressed out and because I try to fix that I'm not spending quality time with my children? Fuck you. Like, what on earth?
I think I'm going to, like, invent a game where if you replace children with, like, your favorite TV show, like, if I said, we prioritize Critical Role in my household, which is a 4-hour D&D campaign for every episode, instead of cleaning the house. That sounds dumb.
Yeah.
It's what I do. And I fully understand that it's dumb. And I could probably clean my house while Matthew Mercer was like doing filler and explaining the mountain. But do I? No.
It's just, I just don't understand why there has to be this one-upping. And like, why can't she just say, oh, do you, and this is another thing. Would you like advice, or if somebody is confiding in you something, you don't have to offer advice. You don't have to offer, usually you should, but you don't have to offer any sort of emotional support.
Right.
Some people would prefer you to just be there to listen.
Yeah.
Like, they don't want anything else other than you to go, I hear you. Yeah. And there becomes this one-upping of everyone's situation in mommydom and in mommy groups where, oh, well, you're stressed out about that. Well, let me tell you about how I do it because the way that I do it is the best way. And they're also insecure.
Right.
But in the moment, if you're, like, divulging your innermost, like, fears or what have you, it's not a great thing to just be like, oh, yeah, well, this is what I do, so this is what you should do.
Well,
and you haven't asked if I wanted advice yet.
Right.
It had to do with you, less about your children. It was like, I get stressed when the house isn't clean. And yet she's like, well, you're wrong, basically.
Yeah.
Like, your fears and your
neglect
stresses don't
your
matter.
children for the Swiffer.
But that is mommy culture, the toxic mommy culture, which is most of it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And you can't win. And the thing that nobody thinks about is there are so many ways to live your life.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that means that there are also so many ways to parent and to create a life that's happy for your children. It looks totally different for every person because we're all so different. My kids like to do stuff. They like to do little handsy things, and they like to be on their own for the most part. Other parents can't fathom that. Like when I've told people, oh yeah, well my kids, or they'll be like, oh, I can't believe that my kid won't go play on their own. And then I'll be like, oh, that's too bad. It's a good thing for them to learn, but every kid is different. And then when I say, oh, I don't usually play with my kids, they play by themselves, instantly it's a turnaround. You don't play with your children? How often do you play with them? You're not a very involved parent. So you literally cannot win because it switches on a dime because everyone's insecure and they're very quick to point out that you are wrong.
Have you ever tried to play with a toddler? Because it's not fun.
It's not.
They change the rules on you. Like, you think that you have...
And you get hit with the toy.
Right, you get hit with the toy. They sass you the entire time. You think that you've done... Basically, they just want to tell you what to do with the thing that they've handed you.
Yep.
So, like, for me, that's a trigger point. And it was a trigger point when I was nannying because I felt like, my God, I've lost my agency to even play with this stupid fidget.
Yeah.
Sometimes it make you, at least in my experience, it make you feel a little bit stupid.
Right.
Like, I was playing with a kid last week, and she was doing magic tricks and stuff. Like, she had this magic kit, and I was like, oh, sweet, she wanted to put on a little show for me. And I was like, all right, let's go. And she was doing these magic tricks. I haven't been to a magic show or seen magic in, I don't know how long, probably 20 years. And she would show me this really cool trick, and I was like, what the fuck? How did you do that? And she would be like this, you stupid bitch, basically. And I was like, wow, okay, well, yeah. I'm a fucking idiot.
Playing with children isn't actually fun.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not whimsical. They're bossy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm a stubborn person.
Yeah,
and I have defiance issues.
Well, and they do too.
Yeah.
So there becomes this, like, they really do like to tell you what to do because you're the parent. That's not usually the role that they're in. So you get abused.
Right.
And they delight in it.
Right. I have to be really careful when people vent to me because as a Capricorn, I too believe that I know it all. And that wouldn't it be lovely if I just imparted my wisdom onto you because I have all of the solutions because I'm anxious and I've already doomsday thought out every problem.
Everything.
Yes. So the trick to that is hand me a fidget because then I'm going to kind of disassociate from what you're saying and I'll just go, yeah, oh yeah, no, playing with your kids sucks. And I'm just too busy trying to figure out like all of the different noises the fidget can make because I have an undiagnosed brain.
I just wish that there was more support.
Yeah.
Because like it's so frustrating, especially as somebody who's not from the area, to be talking to somebody and telling them, this is what I've been struggling with. And for a while it was just having my kids out of the house because I was working from home and that means that any moment that I'm at home is important. So I didn't want to go to the library or whatever. And then they're telling me that I am a horrible parent for not going to the library instead of being like, well, is that something that you want to do? Yep. Because let's try and facilitate that. Let's see if there's a way to make this work so that everybody is happy. Let's try and make you the best mom that you can be in your own mind instead of being like, well, you don't take your kids to the library? Well.
Your kids
And then
will
you have to
never
deal
learn
with this
that.
like
Mom,
weird silent
clearly.
judging. So, yeah, it's all crappy. The whole mom thing.
Man, they sound awful.
I was going to ask for, like, are there any positive things to mommy culture? But if there isn't, that's okay, too. I don't believe in toxic positivity.
Let's see. Well, so I am part of a mommy group that for, I would say about 60 to 70% of the time is good. I started,
Progress.
it's basically a due date group. So it was started on Reddit. And, so it's all moms that had their kids in the month of May of 2017.
Got it.
So, I tried to do this again with my youngest, and that group was just crap. But this one stuck around for a long time, and we still post on our group on Facebook. It definitely has had its drama, but there is at least some sense of community that I have somewhere, and I don't know what I would do if they wouldn't have been part of this journey.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
I think that I would have been a lot more depressed, and I wanted to ask Stephanie this when she was here, just about like when the oppressive feeling of early baby like life, when that finally lifted, because with both of my kids it was 18 months.
Yeah.
So we just got
That's over a
Damn
year.
it, I said her name. Anyway,
It's okay.
my youngest is 19 months now. And so she is starting to do her own things, and that was when all of a sudden I was like, I'm out of it.
Yeah.
I'm out of the funk. 18 fucking months.
That's over a year.
That is so long. And it was about that time that we were thinking about trying for the second one when after I had my first. So I was just I was starting to feel good. I was starting to be active again. I started to feel myself again, and then I got pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And no one tells you about that. So I wanted to ask Stephanie if that was her experience too, and if that affected how she perceived and accepted mommy, or not accepted, but viewed mommy culture as she was going through.
I'll speak to it a little bit just because I talk to her every day, and I talk to her as each one of her kids makes their mile marks.
Okay.
Or milestones, mile marks. I don't raise children. So basically, where she's at now, because the twins are going to be 7 coming up in the first week of December.
Okay.
I think 7 is my correct number. Is that you get out of that infant phase and they start getting like advocacy, and you don't have to just be in like, oh my God, they'll die. Oh my God, they'll die. Oh my God, they'll die. But now you have to adjust your expectations again, because now they have thoughts. They have opinions. As we saw, the little boy, he has a lot of them. She birthed a white man. She birthed a white man, and he is just like right there, like, no, you didn't do enough. Way to go. The little girl remembers every awful thing you've ever done to her, or any awful thing that she's made up that you've done to her.
Oh, nice.
And just like in the middle of your day, she'll be like, do you remember?
Oh, man.
When you threw away my sucker, and that was the only good part of my day.
Damn.
Yeah. They're diabolical.
She holds a grudge.
They're diabolical.
And did a similar thing to me maybe it was a week ago. I was struggling, like I didn't sleep at all that night. And so it was a day that they didn't go to daycare. And I slept on the couch in the morning while they were sitting on me and whatnot and watching TV. And then later on that day, she goes, hey, Mommy, do you remember when you didn't watch us and you just slept on the couch all morning? And I was like, what? This was for like an hour. This was not all morning.
My God.
But also,
she was
like,
fighting.
who are you telling this? Who are you planning on telling this to?
And please tell everyone so the state takes you. Like,
right.
What in the world?
So then because she just had this conversation with her partner that like now the kids are at school all day.
Okay.
So like they also have a 9 to 5. So what they want to do after their 9 to 5 is to actually like interact and have family time, and they like actively miss them or whatever. Well, what Stephanie and her partner want to do after their job is like, oh my God, can you please just be in the other room so I can like breathe or decompress or rehash my day or have a moment with my partner or whatnot. Right. So it just becomes not more struggle, but a different struggle because you're still on until they go to bed.
Right.
So it became this whole conversation of like, we have to realize that we are on the clock until 8:30 because that's when they go to bed.
Yeah.
We have an 8 to 8.
Yeah. And it's rough.
It is rough. I personally think it does get better when they're out of that, like, oh my God, I could just like sit on them and smush them.
Yeah. Yeah, we're now getting to where both of them can communicate in some way. So, it's nice. But I think that like postpartum depression and whatnot, I think that there's definitely elements of it that hang on for a long time. And it was literally one day I was just like, oh, I don't feel like the world is going to just crush me.
Yeah.
You know? But it takes a long time. Like, at least for me, everyone is different, but 18 months. And I didn't love my kids from the get-go, and that was another thing that, like, the mommy culture and the mommy blogs. Oh, when my baby came out and they put this big lump of, fleshy sack of bones on my chest, I just poured out with love, and I knew that everything from then on only was because of this tiny thing.
And Amber went, oh, look at this.
And I was kind of like, oh wow, she isn't as like nasty as I thought. because so she had plugged up. So when my first one came out, she had plugged up all the water behind her giant head. So when she came out, all of the water whoosh, went right over her face. So yeah, my husband said that it was like, the Great Flood, just, a dam has been broken as she came out. And so all of that gunk was washed off of her face. It was all on her back. And so when they put her on me, I was like, oh, she's not as nasty as I thought she would be. Interesting. But I did not feel any overwhelming sense of love. The only thing that I felt was an overwhelming sense of, oh my God, I'm glad that's out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we continued on, and I totally went on autopilot. I knew what to do because luckily, biological indicators and whatnot just happen. And so I was able to maintain that. But I didn't feel myself for 18 months. And then I got pregnant again.
Yeah.
So, like, when I have hesitated to tell any mom, any other mom, my experience of both of the births, because I did not, at least until 2 or 3 months in, did I really feel any sort of love. Yeah. Like any sort of swelling of love within me. I didn't feel it. Mm-hmm. And does that make me a lesser mom? No, because you know what? I still did the things that I needed to do.
They're alive.
But people will try and make you feel guilty because you didn't love your kid at the very beginning.
So my father is very disappointed that I will not be having little people come out of me. And recently on a family vacation, he voiced how disappointing and sad that makes him. I had started it. I was under some substances and I had dogged some kid that we know. And then I told him, and because you made me hang out with that kid, that's why I don't want to have babies. So I had started it.
Okay.
And then he goes into the whole, how disappointing and sad that is or whatever. And then he throws out my life only truly began and became my life when you were born. And it was the best part of me. And he's like, and I truly feel like you would feel that if you had a baby. And I said, well, luckily for you, I am a fake scientist. And I know that my body will flood me with good time hormones to gaslight me into believing that I wanted to have that baby so I don't eat it.
Yeah.
and I refuse to just be gaslit by my own hormones.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know that the feeling is really powerful for some women, and, like, that's totally fine. I'm jealous of those that happens to. Yeah. But I do wonder if it's exaggerated, and how much of it is actually exaggerated, just because you're looking back on it.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that men, or the non-birthing person, probably feels that kind of swelling, because they didn't have anything to do with it, other than, like, you know, I contributed some DNA to this. I
got off, and now there's a baby.
Right. And they get to see this, like, I mean, it is amazing, even though it's weird and disgusting, to see this all just happen right in front of them. And now they're given a baby. How wonderful for them. But how horrible for some of the poor women or birthing persons that have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do wonder how much exaggeration is actually happening, because I didn't feel any of that. I just felt relief that I didn't have that pressure in my body, and that now I could do what I wanted with my body. I was no longer being told by other people, or by, you know, by the way that my body felt, that I couldn't do something. You know, walking from this side of the house to the other was a struggle. So... But I mean, the whole mom guilt thing, it starts when you're pregnant. It starts when you're trying to conceive, all of that, because, you know, there are these crazy expectations on moms. And
I would also say in some families and culture, it happens to you once you become an acceptable age to be giving birth.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something I could find a guest on in the future to talk about, like, women who are choosing to be childless and that culture. Yeah. So tolerators, if you're a woman who is choosing to remain childless, call me. Beat me if you want to reach me. Dina, do you have any final questions? I know we got to get to takeaways and manifestations.
Yeah.
No, you guys really talked about some great stuff, and all the questions I had were already, like, covered.
I know,
Oh, go ahead.
You and Stephanie did a great way of just, like, organically having a conversation, which is what I knew would happen. And I just sat here and I was like, look at me not having to do any fucking work on my own.
She's awesome. I loved how she was able to just kind of, like, go into it all. Mm-hmm. And then I had to, like, after I was, like, in awe listening to her, I was like, okay, what was I going to say?
What I'll do is, after this episode, I'll put the three of us in a group chat together, so you guys could trade information, because I believe in women supporting women. So if you need mom friends near or far, we'll do that.
That sounds great.
Sidebar, though, I am so incredibly distracted by that pink hot dog behind you. Like, it is just vibing, and I feel it.
Change it now.
See, look at him vibing back there. He's just so happy.
Everybody else is kind of boppy, but this one is just like, it's like he's high.
Yeah.
He's
Mary
moving
Jane, and he's just having a great time.
I'm going to do this song, and the tolerators will know what the hot dog is dancing as. Basically, like, think of the motion you would do if it was a da 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 da.
Yeah, wavy arms.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll make a gif of it.
I really like the little
that blue one with the cake.
Yeah, that's me. Celebrating the cake to the utmost fashion.
Love it.
All right, Amber, as our guest and our last standing guest, you will go first with your major takeaways from mommy culture and where you would like us to go in the future.
Yes, so condensed down, you can't win in mommy culture. It sucks. And you basically have to blaze your own way and find a good support group. So my manifestation for any moms or whatever that are listening to this podcast is just to really try to, I just did my takeaway, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I'm on manifestation, and I really hope that other caretaker parents that are out there in the world are really trying hard to uplift each other rather than just compare each other to themselves or what have you, because comparisons don't help anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, ask if somebody would like advice. Ask in what ways you can support them, because telling them what you do, and I'm guilty of this a lot, telling people what you do just because that's your experience doesn't always help the situation. You may think that it's helping the conversation, but that might make them feel shitty. You know, I'm a really productive person, so I've told people before when they've told me things, and oh, this is what I do, and then immediately I realized that was not the thing to share with them, because now they feel like they are inadequate because I said that I could do something. They're now comparing themselves to me, and I'm a very different person than they are.
Right.
So ask people in the conversation, how can I help you? You know, and they may not need anything other than you just to sit there and say, yeah, I get it. I totally get it. Or they may say, I need advice. How can I, or can we just like go hang out? Mm-hmm. Can we find somebody to watch our kids so I can just leave and hang out with myself for a bit? But really just focus on the supportive aspect of raising kids, because we were not meant to raise kids in an isolated 4 or 3 or 4 person group. And it could only contribute negatively to individuals' state of mind. Yeah. So just help each other.
I think we're really starting, and I'm sure like women have felt this way for eons, but I really do feel like we as a culture are now starting to realize how changing the family structure from like a village and like everyone's in this together to like it's you and maybe your lackluster partner and a gremlin and like the dog's not even helping you out. And you're just like looking at that dog like, could you like just sit on the baby so I can take a shower? So I think we're now just starting to see the ramifications of that. And I think like there's been different stages of the ramifications of that. Like think of our grandmothers who were like doped out of their mind on pills and booze just to get through their day, and cigarettes.
And they never talked about it. That's another thing that's just so weird. Because, like, I will talk to my grandmother and people that are of that age range. Mm-hmm. And she was like, yeah, I think everyone was doing it, but we just never talked about it.
Right. I think we were all on booze, drugs, and cigarettes, but, like, who knew?
Yep.
Dina, what are your big takeaways and manifestations?
So, from listening to you and Stephanie talk, it sounds like the best thing that most people can do, whether they're moms or not, is be supportive of one another. And I think that was my biggest takeaway from all this, is that there needs to be more support in the world versus making people like feel bad. Mm-hmm. You know, if especially in the case of moms, if the kid is alive and well and nobody's being abused, like there are so many different ways to raise a child. So if nothing, you know, neglectful is happening or abusive is happening, then let's just support one another and help one another as much as we can. And, you know, I'm just going to take that part into my everyday life of just supporting people instead of, you know, trying to impose my ideals on them necessarily, just being there for them, and trying to foster a culture that is more nice and supportive.
Yeah.
So Stephanie texted me from the basketball parking lot. She's like, I have one last thought. And I was like, I'll read it. And she's like, no need. It's just a thought. I was like, no, this is what we do. So she says, we are guilty because we equate. We equate success with productivity. And because our labor as moms or caretakers isn't valued and seen as productive, we feel guilty because we aren't successful. So I think that was her big takeaway from motherhood. My big takeaway from today is I keep hitting on we should get t-shirts that just say, were you radically honest today? Or like radically honest, because I truly believe that you can't get out of this fog of, or like the glow of motherhood and raising children in this age without actually talking about what the expectations and what the hidden expectations and all of the feelings associated with it are. So my biggest takeaway is, as people whose labor goes unnoticed, or as people who go underappreciated, we have to be honest about that. And we have to call it out more often, and it's still more emotional and mental labor on us, which sucks. But you can't just let it. I have spent years letting things just go past, and the eclipse that's coming up on Friday is making me have dreams about past hurts of things that I've just let past.
There's an eclipse?
Oh yeah, there's an eclipse on Friday.
How do I not know about this?
I don't know. It's why we're all so tired.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then my takeaway, and again, it almost sucks. Or no, my manifestation, and again, it almost sucks because it feels like I'm putting all of the labor back on the already oppressed.
Okay.
Is that I manifest that everyone finds their own moments of the little fuck yous.
Okay.
The little like, fuck you, fuck the patriarchy, and fuck mommy culture. This is what I'm doing because this is what works for me in mothering. Okay. And I hope that you find partners. And if you're not finding a partner that's hyping you up about that, I hope you find a coven. Because as I was listening about your online groups, I kept thinking about my coven, my online coven, and how I have watched women and people of all genders and places in life share about their struggles with parenthood and be met with love and support. And I honestly think if we were all just witches, it would be going better. And that's my takeaway. I have a great coven, and if I was choosing to have children, they would back me up on anything and everything I wanted to do. But I'm not choosing to have children, and they're backing me up on that too.
Well, good.
So I hope that everyone just finds their own ways of fucking you, like just being like, fuck you to that. And then they find their hype, supportive people who are going to look at them and go, you're doing the best you can, and you're looking damn good doing it.
That's a great one. Yeah, and listeners, please let us know what your FUs are.
Right.
We need all the FUs to the patriarchy that we can get.
Oh, don't worry. That will be one of the TikToks and Reels associated with this episode.
Sounds good to me.
We love it.
I will just have to find a TikTok appropriate way to put it out there because TikTok loves to censor my nasty mouth.
Oh, no.
Aww.
Amber, where can people find you?
You can find me on the internet. I am, if you look up my hobby stuff, that's under Lady of the Wilderness. I'm on Instagram and on Facebook as that. If you want to check out my little store, it's called Virgil's Fine Goods. That's on, it's its own little, like, .com. So it's just virgilsfinegoods.com. And then I'm also on Instagram and Facebook with that. And if you want to see, like, things that I do more domestically, that's under GNOME, which is GUHN as in Nancy, OM as in mother, E. It's a weird little play on the word gnome because I was weird in high school. But yeah, so those are the places that you can find me. And yeah, I can't. Is there anything else? Are there any other places you can? I don't know.
I know that Costume Moms is on a hiatus, but they can watch former episodes.
So, but that's totally relatable to what's going on. You can also find the Costume Moms videos on YouTube. It's its own YouTube channel. We also have a Instagram, and we are on hiatus at the moment, just because we've had different health issues, and quite frankly, on my end, just blah issues. I've not felt like doing it for a while. So I think we're going to pick back up, though, in 2022. So yeah.
Love that.
Empowering moms in the costume community.
Yeah, we're wanting to do more interviews of other moms within the costuming community, and so we really want to get like a lot more diversity going because we are two cis white. Well, she's not, but it's just like heteronormative. That's the word I was looking for. Relationships, and then we both have kids, so we're also very white. So like. We want to really put light to the rest of moms out there that happen to be into costuming. So we're looking forward to that. I'm getting my list together, starting to ask people and schedule. So it'll be fun.
It will be fun.
Yeah.
And then Tolerators, if you're new and don't know how to find us, it's Men I've Tolerated Pod on Instagram. Did I just fuck up our Instagram? Now I'm having imposter syndrome because I'm not looking at the actual words. No, it is Men I've Tolerated Pod on Instagram. My personal Instagram is Natalie K124. That's where all the fun TikToks happen. And make sure to be interacting with us because we need your insights and wisdoms as well.
Yep.
Yes, and you can follow me on Instagram at ms.caboose. I'll have my links to everything there.
Yep. Amber, thank you so much for not only giving us 1 hour of your time, but 2 and coming back.
You are welcome. Thanks for having me.
And trusting me when I said, I think you'd like my friend Stephanie.
Yeah, it was great. It was really wonderful.
Yes.
I'm so glad.
Love that you guys connected.
Well, tolerators, remember, you don't have to smile through anything you're tolerating, including being told you're a bad mother when you're tired and doing your best. Smiles are for joy. Find your fuck you. We love you. And reach out to us if you have solutions, because I need them.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening, everyone.